Men have long been the heroes of our tales. Show the people what we women can do to fight for those we love.
Welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are bringing you all of the internet's most popular books and letting you know whether you should take time out of your busy schedule to read them. And today we have a super TikTok famous / maybe controversial author for you. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Catherine. And yes, that super TikTok famous author is Emily Rath, who
Dr. Emily Rath.
Sorry. Oh, I completely yes, that's my bad. It's Dr. Emily Rath. She is a doctor, doll. She got really famous in the past few months for her political views, and suddenly her interest in her books started skyrocketing. And so we decided that we should take a look at her. She writes a lot of hockey romance books, which is not quite what we read. So we decided to choose her only fantasy book, which is...
Okay, I think it's her newest. And also, I picked it up at Target because it's the prettiest book I've ever seen.
It's gorgeous.
And then her TikTok blew up, and I was like, oh, wait, I already own her book. Slay.
Yeah. But to be fair, we don't really read hockey romances. I mean, I do, but this podcast does not read hockey romance.
But also, Happy Pride. She's really popular for having representation in all of her books, including this one.
Yes. So far, our Pride Month has done a lot of books that feature LGBTQ romance. We didn't plan that at all.
We did it
totally on accident.
It was accidental.
It was accidental, but isn't that so much better?
It's meant to be.
It's meant
exactly.
To be. Anyway, North is a Night.
Inclusivity year round.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
North is a Night is a book that follows Finnish lore, and it's kind of a retelling of the gods and goddesses at a time period where Christianity is starting to move its way north into Finland and try to force convert the local populations to their one god monotheistic ideals. It follows Siri and Aina.
I just want to go ahead and apologize to the girl who messaged us on Instagram once about how none of us listen to the audiobooks and therefore butcher the pronunciations. I believe once again, none of us listen to the audiobooks, so I'm sorry.
No. And it's all Finnish words, so I
can't pronounce any of them.
No, too many consonants. Yeah. Anyway, so the two main characters are two women who grew up in a small town, and suddenly Aina is captured by a death goddess and taken to the death realm. And Siri is realizing that she's in love with her best friend and she has to save her. So she embarks on a quest to try and save her best friend from death. And you follow both of their perspectives as they try to battle through these new circumstances. As well, in the background, they try and kind of rediscover the old gods and rediscover their culture that is being taken away from them by the Swedes and the Christians.
Yes. So this book is a long odyssey. But did you guys find reviews?
Yes. I found a few.
Ooh.
Okay, I went to Fable first because I never choose Fable. I always try and do Storygraph to mix it up. And honestly, you Fable people think too hard, okay? But let's see. 3 stars. Nothing special. Low-key a waste of time since it's long for a book that's just mid.
Ooh.
And then 1.25 stars from Storygraph. If one more person cupped someone's face, cheek, something, I will lose my mind. I came here for the Finnish folklore vibe and left mad.
Okay, yeah. So I honestly really struggled to find a funny review of this book. Also, I just wanted to throw out there that there are a lot of critiques of this book in the 1 stars, which I think are, relevant to discuss amongst us. But one of them I chose to read is from a Finnish person that was very mad about the depiction of
I want to read it. I'm interested.
As a Finnish person, this was not good at all. The author clearly doesn't know Finnish mythology well enough, and the Finnish words used seem very random and are just kind of put there. This makes me think the author doesn't know Finnish well either. Finnish indigenous people, the Sami people, I probably said that wrong, are one of the villains in the story, and personally, I think that is very wrong. Male characters have way more depth to them compared to the female characters, and the female characters get their powers from men, even though they're supposed to be the girl boss characters. All the villains in this book are women. So many critical things about this book. I'm just going to leave this here. I do not recommend it.
I will say she has Finnish ancestry, she says, so she like researched it. But yeah, I think she is writing from the perspective of someone who did not grow up in Finland. So
yeah.
Right.
There's a disclaimer at the beginning of the book saying like, I use these names and these things lightly. This is a retelling. This is not like history. This is not mythology. This is just, I'm using these things, these elements to make this book.
You can tell she researched it, but isn't used to using them like in her vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, I think it's kind of cool that she brought some attention to the Finnish pantheon.
Yeah, I do too. I personally think it's fine to repurpose folklore. I mean, people in like the more traditionally Western world do that all the time with Greek mythology. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny how many mad Finnish people there were in the comments.
And yeah, I think it is the Sami people because they're also in Sweden. I don't think the Sami people were truly the villains of the story. There was one woman who was the villain who was manipulating them, I believe.
Yeah, so I actually, not that we have to get into all of this in just the review section, I actually did not agree that the Sami people were depicted as villains. However, there were a lot of comments where people were mad about the depiction of them. So I was like, if that's your opinion, you know, that's fine. I did not think they were portrayed as evil or as villainous. But yeah, the only other critique that I saw that I think is relevant is a lot of people were like, this is not a queer romance, peace and love.
Okay, yeah, the gay girls were not okay.
They were not having it.
And we can talk about that because I actually have some critiques there too. They were like, why is this billed as a sapphic romance?
Not really.
I've seen pros and cons to the argument, so we can talk about it later.
Right.
Okay, let me read my review and then we can move on. So yeah, not a lot of good reviews on this one. Like, y'all do better. You need funnier reviews. Anyway, here's a 2-star review from Goodreads, and it says, I finished it, but it's pretty telling if it takes me almost 30 days to finish a book how I felt about it.
Yeah. Okay. So some of these reviewers, I think I would describe it as the people who hated this book really hated it. People who loved it really loved it.
True. There was not as much like meh reviews that were interesting to read.
Right. But the overall Goodreads rating for the book is 3.8 out of 5. The overall Amazon rating is 4.2 out of 5. What did you guys rate the book?
I gave it 4 stars. I really love the world. I love the world building. Obviously, I'm not Finnish and I know nothing about Finnish culture and customs, but I am a slut for mythology retellings. Percy Jackson girly at heart. I love a new mythology because I have no knowledge of this world system. So like coming into completely blind, this is my first introduction into it. And I really liked the world. I mean, there were some parts where I thought that it dragged on a little bit. There were some parts where the characters were just a little too much at times. And so I can't give it a perfect 5, but I was always constantly intrigued by the book. And I thought that she did a really good job like writing to the world and writing like this like quest and odyssey really well.
I want Casey to go next.
Okay. So I ultimately gave this book 3 stars. In my original rating, I gave it 3.5-ish because I was still kind of debating. But as the weeks have gone by, I feel like I have gotten like more and more sort of like annoyed by some elements of the book. And I don't think it's a bad book. I want to start by saying that. I thought the world was super interesting and the world really drew me in. It's more so that I just didn't think the book had a lot of strong elements outside of that. I thought the romance was lackluster. I understand why the queer girls were mad. I thought the attempts at character building were really clumsy, and ultimately most of the characters were completely flat. I also I had a really hard time connecting with the 2 main characters. I didn't really like either of them. And I thought this book often fell into the fantasy trap that I criticized Prior of the Orange Tree for, which is that anytime there's like a difficult barrier, the problem just gets solved. Like, one of the things that I liked about the review I read is that they said like men solved all the problems in the book. And I actually think that's true. Like, the main characters don't actually solve any of the problems for themselves. They just kind of have someone sweep in and save them. And so I thought overall, like, this book was just very surface level feminism without a lot of like deep thought put into like the actual narrative arc. That being said, I still like had a decent time reading it. Like, I thought it was a fun enough journey. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars.
Okay, well, I saw the original 3.5, which is why I wanted you to go first.
Oh, sorry.
I am also a 3-star. This book was entirely too long.
Mhm.
I thought
Yeah.
the climax hit at 50%. I was like, why is it still so much left? I think it could have easily been 2 books. I can tell you in the spoiler section where I think it should have stopped. Yeah, I felt like I read like 3 different books in this one book.
Mhm.
And that's the main reason, but also because I don't believe any of the romances in the book, and there are multiple.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was mostly just like the pacing, but also that like there was no character that was like, oh my gosh, I would die for you. You know, like
Yeah. They're all
most
men.
fantasies, I feel like I have those kinds of characters, and my favorite character was like sort of a villain. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, I think we probably have the same main character then.
Yeah.
Because y'all know I love a great villain, and I'm sorry, the villains in this book, for the most part, with one exception, were not that great.
Yeah.
Okay. But overall, is the book more plot or character driven?
Plot. 100% plot.
What?
It's an odyssey.
Yeah. It is like one main character trying to save the other main character. And so pretty much it's just like the book is following that journey. Have you or would you read other books by the author? As we mentioned earlier, this author has written some very popular hockey romances.
You know, I would, but I also like hockey romances if they're written well. So I probably will.
Yeah, I mean, I've read Icebreaker. I'm intrigued. Since especially because some of her stuff seems to be pretty popular. We just happened to pick up her first dive into fantasy. I don't know if I'm interested enough to read the second one that's going to be in this. I think it's a duology, so there
It
will be a
is.
second book, and I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'd be more interested in the hockey romance, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not a romance reader, so I'm not going to pick up her romance books. I thought this was an okay attempt at fantasy. I wasn't like totally offended by it, especially knowing it's a first attempt. So I'm not saying I would never read this author again. Like, if there was another fantasy book, I think I would consider it depending on what the plot was. I am definitely not going to pick up the second book in this duology, though.
Honestly, that's high praise from Casey, considering she's completely roasted some fantasy series.
This was not an automatic 1-star, guys. I did think she tried. She made a good, honest to God effort at a unique plot. So, how about the pacing of the book? Caitlin's already
Terrible.
mentioned
No.
that it was.
It's not terrible, but it's not good.
Yeah.
I am a fantasy reader. I don't put down fantasy books. This one I desperately wanted to put down and pick up again much later. Like, I was like, do I have to keep reading right now? It wasn't like I disliked it. It was just like, there are plenty of points that I was like, well, there's the 5th rise in action. Let me just take another break.
hmm
This book, I didn't think the pacing was terrible. I just think this book felt very disjointed to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different like parts of the story, and I just didn't think they were woven together super cohesively. And it jumps POV between the 2 main characters, which I think is fine. I think that makes sense. But the breaks in POV really took me out of the story, and so I had a difficult time reading it as a cohesive narrative. But and I do think it stretches on a little long, but I'm not as negative on it as Caitlin, I think.
Yeah, I not as negative. I don't think it was terribly paced, but it did feel a little disjointed, and it did feel like she split the parts a little weirdly. And I agree with Caitlin. I think this could have been separated into two separate books, because there is a huge climax that happens in one character's journey while the other is still kind of like walking north.
Yeah.
So
You want the rising actions to be happening in both narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt very much like not the same thing happening in each story.
100%. Like one was having a very boring time, and then the other is having like the time of like a century, like just like having like so much shit happen.
But there were also a few times they were both like sitting in a house or a room, and you're like, okay. Yeah. I don't hate this book. I just have a lot of issues with the pacing.
Right.
And that's totally fair.
And this is something we've talked about with fantasy books before, is trying to do a little too much in one book as opposed to really doing smaller plots, but getting really in depth into them. I think this book does fall into this trap a little bit, where I'm like, okay, we don't have to do the whole Odyssey in book one, babe. Okay. Would you watch a movie or TV show of the book?
You know, I would.
Yeah, actually, yes.
I can see this actually being a little bit better on screen.
Yes. That's kind of how I felt reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the world, like you said, the world building is a strength of the book, so I think it would be really cool. Other than like the zombies, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I also this book heavily features the Finnish underworld, which was like my favorite part.
Oh yeah.
And I would love to see that on screen.
Yes. Yeah. And I think this is totally feasible to do on screen. Some like fantasy books are just you can't even try. So there'd be so much CGI and stuff like that. This you could totally do.
Right. All right. Well, Busy Girl rating.
I'll stick with my quality rating of a 4. I think it's good. I mean, I didn't have as much problem with the pacing as Caitlin did. If you love fantasy, you'll probably enjoy this book, especially if you love mythology retellings, because I think this is very, very unique. And I think I have not read a book like this one in a while. Like, this feels very unique in the plot and unique in the world. So I think it's definitely worth a pickup, and it's pretty easy to pick up and put back down. So I know Caitlin's not going to agree with me on that one.
Oh, it's easy to put back down. Actually, I'll stick with my quality rating of a 3. I mean, like, I still like it, and it is so unique, and the world building is good. A 3 for me is not like a dislike. It's like, okay, that was good, and then I'm moving on. It's not like I'm still thinking about it a bunch, you know? So I will stick with my quality rating, because I do think it's not the easiest to finish schedule, because it is over 500 pages. Like, it is a fat book. So I cannot give it that much higher anyway. But I think it's worth the read.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same. I will probably stick with a 3 for my Busy Girl rating. I didn't think it was bad. I just think there's other books that I would recommend before reading this book. And so I think if you want a romantasy, there's other books that are better. I think if you want folklore retellings, there's other books that are better. But honestly, like, if you're sitting in an airport, like, there's worse things to be reading. Okay. Spoiler alert. I'm kind of excited to get into this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you haven't read the book, go read it and then listen to the rest of the podcast. Or just know we're about to tell you everything that happens. So
thoroughly.
We've already touched on this a little bit, but we spend a lot of time with the main characters. I was pronouncing it Aina, but I don't know.
I was pronouncing it Aina. Aina probably sounds better, honestly.
Aina sounds better, but I don't know if it's accurate.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say Aina for the purpose of the
probably
podcast.
Like Aina or something. We haven't even predicted because we're simple.
Yeah.
Okay. The two main characters, Aina and Ciri, they flip perspectives as they're both on their respective journeys. What did you think of them?
I actually, because I'm very critical of perspective flipping because I feel like every fucking author is doing it now. This actually needed that. Like we needed the perspective flipping because they're both going on separate journeys to find each other again. And I don't think we could have just had Ciri's perspective because when she got to the underworld, too much shit had already happened. And like, she wouldn't have understand why she needs to forgive her and move on. And like, if she truly wants to save her, she has to like reconcile the differences in her. And I think that was really needed. And I think that plot line and storyline was really well done. I do think that at times Ciri's story got a little boring because she was truly just walking north with a reindeer. Yeah, and then a bear for a little bit of time. It wasn't until she actually got to a village or when she met the like trappers for the first time that like things got interesting, but then they got boring again. So it's like it's Ciri's journey, while I liked her character more, was kind of boring at times until you get to the end. And like we said in like the non-spoiler section, the two characters like rising action and climaxes happen at very different times. So it feels really disjointed. So like when you're reading Aina's perspective and then like you flip to Ciri's who's like not doing anything, but Aina's like literally marrying a death god, you're like, wait, what? Like, no, get me back to that part.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of that. I do think you needed both perspectives flipping back and forth. Like, I think that's how it has to go. Here's what I'll say. The book should have ended when Aina agreed to marry Tuoni and when Ciri found the shaman. I'm not even going to try and say his name.
No.
That's where it should have ended. Because it went like Ciri's doing nothing. Ciri's doing nothing. Now she's splitting her soul. And like Aina did a few things, like she got kidnapped and stuff, and she's like in the stuff with the girls, but then all of a sudden she's like married and in love, maybe, question mark, sort of. Yeah. And like there was like, it was too much back and forth. I think it should have ended there. Then you have another book.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. So one of my major like critiques of the book is that it was way too easy for Aina to free the death god.
Oh yes.
Like,
and too easy for Ciri to become a shaman.
Yes. That should take more work.
Yeah, it was like they literally did all of this in like the course of 2 days. And I was like, it's okay if we take more time for these sort of like epic monumental journeys of self. Like, it's okay. But also, respectfully, Ainatar is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
So dumb. I'm like, Aina, what are you doing?
She's like, well, I'm mortal, but watch me. I add some letters to my name and now I'm not.
It literally, and she does not change at all.
No.
Like,
well, the fact that this girl does not know she needs to take a contraceptive before having sex.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Also, she's the most indecisive person ever because she'll make these big life-changing decisions and then be like, wait, did I make the right decision? I'm like, you should have thought of this before you did it.
I never want you to touch me, but to get my way, we're going to have sex now.
Yeah.
And didn't understand there are consequences to having intercourse.
Yes. And I just felt like she was like, no, I'm going to be empowered and I'm going to stop letting these gods push me around. And like the very next scene is her absolutely getting trampled. Like it's just like comical.
She's never actually in control. And she realizes that later. She's like, oh, even, what's her name? Tuonatar has been using me. What's her, no.
Loviatar?
Loviatar. Yeah. Why do they all end with tars? I'm sure that's a Finnish word construction, but Loviatar has even been using me. It's like, yeah, girl, they're gods. That's how it works.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, and like Caitlin has said, I wish that they just went way more in depth into the first parts of their journeys and made that more like tense and like have more plot points rather than fit like the whole journey in one book. Because also like, oh my God, I totally forgot what I was going to say. But my frustration is basically the same. It's just that like it just felt too easy. And then there were points that were really boring when I feel like the idea itself was really interesting. Like Aina being held captive in the world of death and having
The other
to,
girls. Very
yeah,
interesting.
with other girls who are also being held captive and having to fight other gods of death to free the death god. Like, that's super interesting. But I felt like the actual journey was not as interesting as that.
I feel like you could have drew it out more and made it its own separate book. And like we
Yeah.
could have gotten more invested in the girls and their journey and their story. Cause like there was very interesting moments where like
that would have given like Throne of Glass. It would have been great.
Yeah.
there was very interesting moments where they like kill each other by an accident because they're hunting for food and they don't realize the food is the girl. Like that's
Right.
horrifying. Like that my heart sunk when I found that out. I was like, I did not expect
Yes.
that.
No, it was a great plot twist.
Yeah.
That
and
was
like
the only plot twist that actually surprised me. Literally nothing else surprised me.
yes. Yeah. No, nothing else surprised me. That surprised me. And I feel like we could have had more of those trials and also learning more about the death god, learning more about
Mhm.
all of the queen and her daughters. Because like she makes the decision to marry this guy very, very quickly. Like within like an hour, she's decided that I'm going to save this guy. And I'm like, I would maybe want to rethink that a bit.
Yes.
She does think it's her
ask a
only
few more
option, which like I
questions.
get, whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just like, I didn't feel the impact of a lot of the things that happened because everything was just like moving so quickly and I don't know. Okay. Another thing we've already touched on a little, but there's a lot of Finnish lore in the book. What did you guys think about the world, the clash of religions between the Christians and the typical Finnish religion and the Finnish gods?
Okay, I didn't mind that as like the tension point, which ended up not being the tension point again until the end. However, it was just like a little too on the nose, like hammered directly onto you. About they are ruining our lives with their one god. I'm like, you could be a little more subtle. Like it's just it didn't feel eloquent, didn't feel fantastical, you know? Granted it's her first dive into fantasy. I didn't mind it though, as like the tension, and it was fun to meet all the gods.
I like the idea of it, but yeah, I agree. It was a little on the nose. Like she was definitely hammering home like Christianity bad. Like it was like, okay, I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Like I grew up in this era of religion, so I totally understand where you're coming from, but like we can make it a little more subtle about them being bad.
It was good at first, like when she's talking about they had to move to like whatever, but then it just goes real hard.
Like the pastor character is very fire and brimstone, and it's just like, I'm gonna burn all the witches. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Right.
Her brother was the most interesting part of that. She should have gone more in on like him without all the other like the priests and stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, I liked the folklore overall. I did think the one thing I never totally understood is like why the Finnish gods disappeared, and why they were no longer present in the lives of the Finns. And I would have liked it if she had provided a little bit more structure to the pantheon. Like when we read Greek mythology, authors benefit because most people already kind of know the general outline of the pantheon. But for me, I'm like, is there like a head god in charge? Are there like beefs and grievances between these gods? You know, do they work together? And we get a lot of information on the underworld, but not many of the gods outside of that. And that was the one part of the folklore where I was sort of like, I don't really understand fully what's happening here.
I agree. Like they reference the All-Mother. But it's really confusing how that works. And at one point, that one, like the god of the woods or whatever, is going to dance with her. And he's like, oh, you've met my nephew. My mom's coming. I'm like, we don't know who these people are and how the like, you know, in Greek mythology, like Zeus and Hera, Zeus has children. His siblings are XYZ. They're the children of the Titans, you know, like you're right. We didn't get enough of. There's the glossary at the beginning, but that was like so much work to read that glossary, and there were no pronunciations in it, which irks me.
Okay. So now to my favorite part, which is the realm of death. I thought it was so interesting that we got to spend so much time in the realm of death. I personally love like a Hades love story where you know, he's a super great character and you're not sure if he's a villain, if he's a hero, he's a little bit of both. I do think the world itself of the Death Realm could have been built out a little more.
It's a really big island, apparently.
Yes. But the actual like contours of that island remained a little bit confusing to me. And I was ultimately the one character I liked is the Death God. And I
Which
just
Death God?
The man. I forgot his name.
Oh, that's not the one character I liked.
Oh.
We did not agree.
Wow, he was the one character I liked.
I liked him too.
Lovitar.
Oh, okay, that makes
that's
sense.
fair too.
She's okay with me. But no, I loved him, and I just
actually disliked him greatly.
No, I was obsessed with him because the whole time you can't tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Well, yes, but he couldn't call her by wife. Like, use her name, you Neanderthal.
No, I totally agree. I think I don't like them together, but I found him super fascinating.
He was complicated, and his plight was interesting. The god of the long death, you know?
Yeah.
The like gentle death. And the tension of the underworld was interesting.
Well, because
I hated them together.
Yeah, he had this,
and I hated that he couldn't use her name.
Yes,
and just expected her to be in love with him, and it sort of worked.
Yeah,
he was very like traditional male, like where he was just like, you can't speak of Ciri because I know how you feel about her, and it's just like, okay, calm down.
Don't touch her in my sight. Excuse me? I'll do what I want, sir.
Well, no, that's why I liked him, because he was very fascinating as a character, because I'm like, you are obviously manipulating this girl, but you also seem to have some feelings for her. And then there's also like this tension of him being like, he has good intentions and like an idyllic version of death, but is it truly what needs to happen in order to make this realm prosper? Because you also need that illness, chaos, and like things like that. You need the bad, negative things in order for allowed to good to flourish. Like you can't just make everything great all the time.
I didn't understand his point. This is sort of minor, where he was like, I gotta take their magic away, but I can't kill them because we still need their powers. And I'm like, but you took their magic away. So what does... I don't get it. I didn't get what he was doing.
I think what I read it is that their existence is necessary in order for the realm to thrive, but they don't need their powers because their existence themselves will help keep those things there.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, the part that was super disappointing was the romance between him and Aina.
Yes.
Period.
I never bought into it.
I feel like they were going for Rhysand and Mist.
Yes.
Like the rescuer, the meant to be Mist.
And the kind of appears toxic, sort of toxic, but like wants the best for you, man. And also it made me really annoyed with Aina because I felt like she was so flighty and confused about her own feelings.
Stop having sex if you don't know your feelings.
She was much more fun until she got married.
Yes. And it was just like so chaotic and cringy. Which is another thing that I think would have been a lot better if the book had ended where Caitlin suggested and they spent more time building out that romance and like more time building out the tension of like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Like, because the way it's written, I was like, I honestly don't understand what she likes about him. And I'm really confused by her like weird need to like throw herself at him.
Yeah. Well, and then she's like, I'm not giving him anything. And then she throws herself at him. And then she's like, no, we need to never do this again. And then he's like, well, you're pregnant. And she's like, okay. Like, she was so wishy-washy.
Yeah, she does not reckon with her feelings very well. She does not like consider them.
I'm sorry, the romance sucks.
Yes. But they also made it like such a short time period that you could never believe her actually having actual feelings for this person.
Well, correct. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like it was some kind of attempt at writing, oh my God, I'm forgetting the word for it, but when the captive falls in love with their...
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome.
What I thought about the whole time, I was like, oh my God, this girl has Stockholm Syndrome. What a terrible romance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not a dark romance reader, and that's what this was giving.
I felt like the pull of him and her like survival instinct protecting her and like making her kind of identify with him to survive just could have been written better. Like,
yeah, she was like, well, I have no other options, so might as well just fall in love. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's to say I wouldn't do the same in this situation, but it was annoying.
Yeah, it was. Okay, on the Queen and the Daughters, I want to say some of the reviews, the bad reviews, were mad that so many of the villains were women. I don't care. I love a female villain.
Yes.
The women are in charge of death? Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, it's cool.
In pain and suffering, yes, bitch.
I thought they were
Yes.
very strong characters. That,
Yes.
especially when they like the girls enter the feast and it looks all glamorous, and then she like drops the facade and they're eating like rotten food, and the daughters are all like very grisly and scary, and they're all like, oh no. Like, I thought that was really fun. And I thought, especially like Lovatar, however you say it, and Kalma were really complex, and I
Mhm.
enjoyed their presence. Yeah,
Yeah.
no
And I-
complaints really.
I love the idea of the goddess of pestilence being the mother of hope. Like, that was
Yes.
so cool.
Yes. And I did like that those were the characters that I thought were complex. Like I agree with you because they still do things for their own motives, but you realize that their thought processes about their role in the world and their powers are more complicated than just being evil.
Mhm.
And that's a theme that I'm really interested in. I always love books that take a really kind of like complex look at like bad deaths and pestilence and painful death. And like, obviously the king of death is like the king of like the long, graceful death. But I liked that they didn't just let the daughters be like evil. It was more like there's beauty and pain and suffering too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, they're
just-
necessary things in the world. And it can be complex and complicated, but it doesn't have to be evil.
But I like the emphasis on there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Tuonotar's grasp for power brought chaos everywhere. And it's like, yeah, like you don't see everybody die chaotic deaths or everybody die peaceful deaths. It's just like how it works. And also how everything has to be a balance in the world, which is such a mythology theme everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
You have to have the heaven and the hell kind of thing.
Right. You know, yin and yang, whatever.
Okay. Well, another thing that was too easy. Series Journey North.
Everything? Wait.
She got saved so many times.
Yes.
The most
was
intense
like-
part was when the guys were trying to rape her in the woods.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
crazy.
I was like, ew. And also, why was that hardest thing you encountered?
Yeah.
Also, that was the point where I'm like, am I reading a YA or an adult book? And I couldn't decide which one I was.
It was
think you did
really graphic and like very close to like, you know, not being an attempted rape, like being an actual rape.
Needed a
I was
trigger
like,
warning. Yeah.
yeah. It's like that is very intense for a YA novel.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I don't know if this book is technically YA.
I don't think
but
it is. There are a lot of pretty intense like deaths and
There was intensity to it, but it read kind of YAE except for those moments.
I think
Yeah.
because it's her intro to fantasy.
So it's new
Yes.
adult, basically.
Yes. Yes, I hated that every time something hard happened to Siri, that bear would fucking appear out of nowhere.
Or a goddess.
Yeah, yeah, or a goddess. I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah.
Also, what happened to the reindeer? Where's
Yeah,
her
I
reindeer?
know. Where's the
The
reindeer?
only question we are left with at the end, really, is where's the reindeer?
It's so crazy. And also, just while we're on this point, Siri's journey to actually get into the realm of death and save Aina was
So easy.
grotesquely easy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, let's just pop in. To
Yeah,
hell.
let's just separate our soul in half and go pop.
The soul magic needed much more buildup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you are a generational talent. Here, just go. It was interesting when she almost got burned at the stake in her
Yeah.
other form.
Yeah.
But I was waiting
did
for them to
that.
like try and cut off her hands because that was her tether. You know, something like
Yeah.
that. Like a little more stakes.
A little
Not
more
just
thing.
like bopping around in your
And
body.
she
somewhere else.
I did like when she turned into a woodpecker and they're like, woodpeckers mate for life. I'm like, that's cute. That's
I
right.
appreciated that she wasn't like an eagle or something. I was like, he was like, you're annoying. You're a woodpecker.
I did.
I
like
didn't mind him. I liked him as a character. The
I
shaman.
did like him.
Yes. I actually loved him as a character, which is why I wish we spent more time actually getting into it with him.
However, I knew as soon as he explained his curse that he was going to make her kill him.
Yep.
Immediately. I was
Yep.
like, so when's she doing it?
Yeah.
When's it
What's
happening?
gonna happen?
Right. I did like that she ultimately like becomes him. That like
Nope.
she's now the new shaman.
don't
No,
like
I
that?
liked it. I liked it.
I liked it.
Her father figure is living in her body now. Excuse me.
Okay, but he's not like really living in her body. It's like kind of, but it's more like
memory.
she's now the god.
Yeah.
Like
It was proven that their piece of their soul functions very independently outside their body. Therefore, it's now inside her.
okay, it's a little weird. I
Yeah.
still like that she becomes like the god and
Yeah.
the shaman at the end.
Yes, yes, she's the shaman. She's a badass. She's gonna go with
She's
the
gonna
queen of
save
death.
Finland.
The queen of the righteous death, which I still don't understand the righteous part.
I
Yeah,
don't
she
either.
wasn't very righteous.
Like
No.
I was like martyrs, like
Yeah.
dying for a cause. I guess
I don't know. So they're gonna go south and bring
I was thinking more.
paganism back to the Finns. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very strange, and they have a baby.
I was thinking that she was like
Yeah.
queen of like merciful death. That would have been better because she had a lot of
Yes.
mercy to give.
Yeah, she
Right.
and they called her like merciful all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The righteous death doesn't make sense.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, whatever. Yes, I needed more Siri with the shaman learning things about the world and balance and limitations.
Oh, also, I do want to say Siri had a father figure.
Yes.
She had a father. She had a
Yeah.
literal father.
I was like, why
but
did
she
need
calls
another
this man father. Yeah.
She's like, call me,
Why do you
let me
her
call you
father?
daughter once. And she's like, okay, daddy.
Yeah.
I hated that.
It is. It happens so fast too.
It's
And
whiplash.
yeah, I was like, oh, I guess. And he was like, you're the light of my life. Like, I can't wait to like, give you my power. And I was like, I'm sorry, do you two know each other? Like, you spent 3 days together.
Okay, apparently the whole thing took 2 months. It did mention that.
Okay.
Does not
Still-
read like that.
No.
No,
it-
but like they were gone for 2 months before she was rescued, basically.
in half of that time, he was a bear.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, I just don't.
I thought the bear was going to be Otso, the god, helping her.
Same. I
Me
did too.
too. Me too.
But
I was
then I was
actually
like,
disappointed that it wasn't. I
Yeah.
was
I know.
Same.
I thought she was going to fall in love with like sexy hunter man, maybe, but no.
Yes.
Me too. I
Yes.
thought her the thing she said at the beginning, I thought was going to be like actual like
They
foreshadowing.
mentioned Otso way too much to not
Yes,
incorporate him.
Yes. Okay, and that was another tiny. This is a tiny nitpick, but while we're here, I'll just
We
mention
didn't
it.
even meet him at the feast.
Yes,
Yes.
he's mentioned so many times you don't meet him, but that's true of so many gods in the pantheon. I thought there would be small influences and small appearances from so many more of the gods because I wanted them to be present, as in like we're fighting for our people, like we want to return to them. But instead, they were just remained disappeared.
Well, yeah, and you meet the one who's crying over her father's like temple or whatever. I'm like, who was your dad? Who is supposed to be here? What are we? I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't get it.
I mean, I kind of thought of it as the Tinkerbell effect, where it's like you need to have someone say you believe in fairies. Like, I believe in these gods in order to get power. I mean, am I
Santa
wrong?
Claus.
No, you're not. It did not properly explain what bringing the gods back would do.
Yeah.
I guess they like, because I think of gods as very fickle creatures that don't really
Like, do
actually
the
give
gods
a
cease
shit.
to exist, like you're saying, if they stop believing in them? Like, what is the?
I mean, yeah, like I feel like that's kind of like the point of religion is like once people cease to believe the thing that like they worship, is it actually have any power anymore?
That, but it never talks about that. Like, why do they need to bring religion back other than to get rid of the crazy Christian priest?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I didn't understand the stakes for most of the book, other than Ciri and Aina's like relationship.
I have a feeling that that will be delved into more in the second book.
No, but the pregnancy trope, I can't do it. I can't.
The pregnancy
do
trope. Yeah, I didn't like that.
I did. As soon as she got pregnant, I was like 3 stars.
Yeah.
it.
At least this is a love triangle I can get behind because
Man plus woman equals baby honey. Yeah, no, you like the love triangle? Hell no. He's a
Well,
freaking bird checking
no.
out his son.
I am saying
No.
I'm saying like this is a love triangle I can get behind because it's not a love triangle. That's the only reason why I like it.
It's not love anyway.
Exactly.
I don't know. I believe none of it.
Yeah. That was the other thing. So I wanted to mention a critique from the Queer Girls because I've had other friends mention this to me before, and I thought it did show up in this book, which also this author identifies as queer. So I'm not saying she can't write her romance.
It's going to be a lesbian in love with a bi girly?
No, it's that male and female romances are written as super sexual and there's this attraction and everything is about physicality and like there's this like spice to it and this like draw. And then when authors write women falling in love with women, it's totally devoid of actual sexuality. It's
True.
like, oh, this is my friend and she's so pretty and we're going to kiss and it's going to be so soft and then fade to black. And this book did that.
Yes, it did. No, and I thought it was like how icky as a queer person to read, and maybe, you know, it probably happens more than the girl is in love with a boy and a girl, but the boy's only in love with the girl and the girl's only in love with the girl. So it's like, that's weird. It's icky.
Yeah.
You need to write about it. If it's true love, make it be true love. You know, I understand she's like, you have my heart, but you have my soul. I'm like,
I hated that. Like, I absolutely hated that. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not a thing. Like, that's not, I get that the
it's
thing
our
is like you
son
separate
and I love you.
Yeah.
No.
I think you can say, I don't love you. I think that's
the old-timey queer girls somehow got a kid out of it. Like, oh, perfect. That was easy. They can be together because now they have a child.
Right. I did also think, like, I thought that part was extremely cringe and I didn't get it. I was also like, okay, I'm sorry. So you are in love with him after your, like, week-long thing with him where he tried to capture you and then ultimately helped you escape. You're in love with him. And you're now in love with Ciri, even though y'all's relationship is written as if you're best friends who occasionally hold hands. Like, I was like, I don't think you're in love with either of these people.
Yeah, because they say they Ciri sleep together, but not
Aina.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ciri was in love with Aina. That's it. Yeah. That's all.
Yep. It was very disappointing as a romance.
It's just like, this is my baby now, too. And I'm like, nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Like, girl, you are settling.
Yeah. Yes. What's that lesbian trope? Oh my God, what do they call it? Where you like get married immediately?
I think that's it. Yeah.
No, there's a word for it. I'm not gonna be able to remember.
Well, I know like all the comics who are lesbians say like lesbians like on the first date will pick out a house together.
Yeah. It's called like trailer park or like, but it's not trailer park. It's like, what's the I'm explaining this so poorly.
Yeah, you are.
I will say, I went to a book thing where it was, I think I explained this before. I don't know. Queer author, really good book thing. This one girl started like using the microphone to ask Q&A questions to like flirt with this girl down the road from her. And suddenly they're like kissing in front of everybody. And I was like, okay, lesbians, I see you. Like, you just found the love of your life accidentally shooting your shot at a book event.
That's amazing.
Okay, the word I meant was U-Haul. U-Haul lesbians, where you move in together immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of read like U-Haul, like, okay.
100%.
Only on Ciri's behalf.
Yeah. We don't even know how we feel, but we're just going to live together.
Also, the gods couldn't magic them back to their homestead.
Yeah.
They had to have this perfect, happy, like, quaint cabin life together for all of summer. They didn't want to walk back in summer. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I think they waited because they were waiting for Aina to give birth.
Yeah. But she wasn't that pregnant when they got out. Why wouldn't they leave?
She was like 2 days pregnant.
And clearly, it only took her like a week to walk north. So, where's the reindeer?
Where's the reindeer?
Where's the reindeer? Okay. Well, that's basically the end of the book. Are you guys going to keep reading?
I don't think I can because of the baby. I can't. It gives me such an ick. This like baby with 3 parents in a fantasy Finnish
and
world.
One parent's a raven. The other parent is your mother's somewhat lover.
Yeah, lover with no sex.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, because they basically said that they just like cuddle. That's it. I'm like, that's not a relationship, honey.
Light touching. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, unless they're both asexual, that's just not a romantic relationship.
Yeah. No, sorry. The end gave me such an ick.
Yeah.
I'm curious about like her brother and the religion part, but I don't know if I'm curious enough. Especially if the baby's the answer to everything. Ew.
I would read it if it was more of like the gods and a clash between God and gods.
Also,
but not the baby.
You're writing this badass girl book. Women have value beyond childbirth.
Yep.
Yes.
Still a huge critique of mine, even with SJM. Why does everyone have to be married with a kid at the end?
Yes. I
think I'm pretty badass, unmarried with no children, okay?
Period.
Yeah.
I like my cats.
Right. Okay. Well, there you have it. There was a lot to discuss in this book. And we'd love to hear.
Still read it for the world building, okay? Yes. I know we hated on it, but it really wasn't that bad.
No, the world was cool. I enjoyed
just my few critiques were huge icks.
So yeah, let us know what you thought. Also, rate and review our podcast. 5 stars, please.
Do we want to do book recommendations?
Oh shit, I totally forgot.
Oh, I actually have one. I thought of it while reading.
Oh.
Okay. I know Catherine also read these at my recommendation, but the books For the Wolf and For the Throne. It's a duology about 2 sisters who get separated. One gets taken to the realm of death. And I loved it. And there's the one sort of like gets captive kind of thing, like falls in love with her captor in a much more believable way, you know?
Yes.
I really liked that duology. It's cute. It's way shorter. I think both books together are shorter than this one single book.
Yes.
And also kind of steeped in some like woodsy mythology kind of stuff.
I'm going to do a throwback, a classic throwback, and recommend Circe. My sister is actually reading it right now on my recommendation and has absolutely become obsessed with it, as you do.
She's gonna love it.
Yep. She loves it. And so that book's been on my mind, and it's a great mythology retelling. Also lots of girl power themes. So y'all should read it.
I guess I will recommend another kind of Nordic fantasy, A Fate Inked in Blood. I know Casey did not like that book. Yeah. But I thought it was a good fantasy. And it delved into more of like the Norse mythology, which I really liked. And I don't think there's enough of those out there. Also, Witch's Heart. That made me remind me of A Witch's Heart by it's a retelling of Loki's mistress / wife. And she's a witch who gets her heart cut out by Odin. And she has, it's like a whole thing. It's really interesting. And it's to the lead up of Ragnarok. And it's very interesting. I'm telling it giving a summary very poorly, but just look it up. It's a very interesting story.
Yeah. Getting your heart cut out. It's a whole thing.
Well, that's the start of the book. Like she's living without a heart.
Oh God.
Well, that title's really on the nose then.
A Witch's Heart. Yes.
Also, the second Fate Inked in Blood just came out. It's sitting in my living room waiting to be read, but I've been busy with all of these books. So.
Period.
Cool. Okay. Well, I jumped the gun earlier, but rate and review our podcast 5 stars. And let us know what you think. You can join in their conversation with us at Busy Girls Pod pretty much everywhere. We love to hear from you guys, and we also love to get book recommendations from you. So if there's something you've read recently that you want to hear our opinions on, or there's a book you're curious about that you're not sure if you want to read, let us know and we will do it for you.
Yeah. And with that, I'm Catherine.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Caitlin. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.